Some of you who are into prayer plants may recognize this plant as Calathea orbifolia, but it got switched over into the genus Goeppertia orbifolia, I'm sad to say, because I know a lot of folks are actually, we're very pleased with the Calathea name, but again, it got changed over. This is a plant that could get actually really large leaves, and I had one that I unfortunately cut off because it was like, even though it was like really big, there was just like too much browning around it and it kind of ruined the look of it. You can see that this is getting a little bit more brown around the edges here. And sometimes I'm usually very good with being able to water my prayer plants with a little bit more of distilled water. I use actually almost exclusively distilled or sometimes filtered water with my prayer plants because I find that they are very sensitive to any type of hard water or anything with salts or minerals in the water. So you want to be a little bit more mindful of that. If you want to try to keep it as pristine as you possibly can, which is so hard to do, it is really hard, folks, then you'd probably want to give it a better chance with a little bit more of distilled water. So you'll see that I actually have this in a glazed ceramic. That is to keep a little bit of the moisture in. These are plants that require a little bit more higher humidity and moisture. Now, if you're giving it a little bit more higher humidity, the really wonderful thing about that, give higher humidity, you do a little less watering because it's keeping some of that water in and around the leaf. This is actually native to Brazil. It is one of those plants that I think are a little bit easier on the Goeppertia. If you look at the Goeppertia spectrum or the Calathea spectrum, this I find is a little bit more on the easier end than some that are a little bit more challenging, but you might have a completely different experience with them altogether. Now, giving this a little bit more kind of low to moderate light is going to be great for the plant. I did a houseplant house tour that had a little bit of somebody who had a beautiful Calathea orbifolia or Goeppertia orbifolia growing, and they had top-down light and it just was looking super lush. So if you're somebody who has a skylight, good for you, because actually growing this and many plants under a skylight is actually going to be great for those plants. Fertilizing, like I said, it's very sensitive to fertilizer salts and things along those lines. So you want to be very gentle with the fertilizer. So even on a bi-weekly to monthly basis during the spring or the summer months, and you want to be able to give it a little bit more of like a 1-1-1 or a 10-10-10 or a well-balanced fertilizer. But I would say going a little bit more on the organic route because you don't want to over-fertilize these guys because, like I said, the more you try to fertilize, the more you put some of those high salts in, the more likely it's actually going to turn brown. Now, as far as pest pressures go, you may actually see thrips, you may actually see if you stress it out at all, which stressing out these plants can be easy to do, then you may see some thrips, you may see some spider mites. It's just like par for the course with these guys. They're definitely a little bit more sensitive. But other than some thrips on mine, you might even be able to see a little bit of thrips damage on here. Maybe not this close. I have to be probably a little bit closer. Then you'll actually, probably have to deal with that through getting either some beneficial insects or I wouldn't even spray neem on it. Neem I find is like very sensitive, or horticultural oil. It's these plants are very sensitive. So you could share a little bit more of your tips down below if you've actually ended up getting some pests on these. Otherwise, you could refer to some of my pest videos here on Plant One On Me. But otherwise, really lovely plant. And I know a lot of you are into prayer plants. Not one of those ones that have a different color bottom. The bottom's quite bland, but it has really beautiful round orb-shaped leaves with a little bit of striations on it, which makes it quite beautiful.